The gunshot tears through the ballroom. I freeze. Everyone freezes. Glass explodes. Someone screams, and then I see her. A little girl. 7 years old. Standing in the center of Seoul's most elite gathering. Crying, while Korea's richest people step around her like she's invisible. My heart drops, because I know that feeling. I've been that invisible person in rooms like this. I don't think, I just move. My red and gold gelée towers above the sea of black tuxedos as I push through. A security guard blocks my path. Boss Kang's orders. No one approaches the child. Boss Kang. Even the name makes people flinch. But I look at that little girl crying, and I don't care about Boss Kang. I don't care about orders. Then Boss Kang is a fool, I say, and I push past him. I kneel down beside her. She flinches like she's used to people not touching her. But I don't pull back. I wrap my arms around this little girl I've never met. She trembles, smells like expensive soap and loneliness. I start humming, a lullaby my mother used to sing to me in Lagos, old Igbo words, the language of home. And this child. She whispers something that stops my heart. Mama used to sing this. Mama. Used to. Past tense. This little girl just lost her mother, and I'm the first person who's held her since. The entire ballroom goes silent, and I feel her before I see her. The energy shifts. The temperature drops. I look up. She's descending the stairs like a queen approaching her execution ground. Yuna Kang. I've heard the name whispered at every event I've planned in Seoul. The businesswoman who makes billionaires stammer. The woman people cross the street to avoid. And I'm holding her daughter without permission. She stops 3 feet from me. Her eyes are ice. Pure, dangerous ice. You're touching my daughter. It's not a question. It's an accusation. I should be terrified. Everyone in this room is terrified of her. But all I can think is, how does a mother watch her child cry and do nothing? I hold this little girl tighter, and I look Yuna Kang dead in the eye. Your daughter was drowning in a room full of people, I say. Someone had to swim. The crowd gasps. Nobody talks to Yuna Kang like that. But here's what breaks my heart. Her daughter doesn't run to her. She clings to me, a complete stranger. And for 1 second, just one, I see Yuna Kang's mask crack. Pain, raw and devastating. Yuna's jaw tightens. Her hand clenches at her side. For a moment, I think she might have me thrown out. Or worse. But then she looks at her daughter. Really looks at her. And something shifts in those ice-cold eyes. My car, she says quietly. 5 minutes. Bring Zara. She turns and walks away. The crowd parts for her like the Red Sea. And I'm left kneeling on this marble floor, holding a little girl named Zara, wondering what I just walked into. And why a child is more afraid of her own mother than a room full of strangers. I didn't know it then, but that moment, that choice to hold a crying child, would lead me into a world of violence, secrets, and a love I never saw coming. But right now, in this moment, all I know is, a little girl needs someone, and I'm not walking away. My name is Chioma Adebayo. I'm Nigerian. I've been living in Seoul for 8 years, curating events for people who can barely pronounce my name. But tonight, standing in the Grand Hansong Hotel ballroom, watching a 7-year-old child cry while hundreds of Korea's wealthiest citizens stepped around her like she was invisible, I realized something. Power doesn't make you human. Sometimes it does the opposite. The shooter was already tackled by security. Some drunk businessman's bodyguard who'd accidentally discharged his weapon. No one was hurt. But the damage was done. The perfect veneer of this glittering night had cracked, and through that crack, I saw her. Zara Kang, half Korean, half Nigerian, clutching a doll made of Ankara fabric like it was the only solid thing in her world. I moved before I could think. My red and gold Nigerian gel towered above the sea of black tuxedos and designer gowns as I pushed through the crowd. A security guard blocked my path, his hand moving to his holster. Boss Kang's orders. No one approaches the child. I looked him dead in the eye. Then Boss Kang is a fool. I stepped around him. He grabbed my arm. I twisted free, and suddenly there were 3 more guards surrounding me. The ballroom had gone quiet. Everyone was watching, and I didn't care. That child is terrified, I said, loud enough for everyone to hear. And you're all standing here like she's a piece of furniture. What's wrong with you people? The crowd parted, and she descended. Yuna Kang. I'd heard the name whispered at every event I'd planned in Seoul. The woman who owned half the city's nightlife. The businesswoman who made grown men stammer. Tall, sharp-featured, dressed in a black suit that probably cost more than my apartment. Her hair was pulled back so tight it looked painful. Her eyes were darker than the Seoul night outside. She stopped 3 feet from me. I could feel the temperature drop. "You're touching my daughter." Her voice was ice. Pure, cold, dangerous ice. But I'd grown up in Lagos. I'd survived things that would make Seoul's elite weep. So I knelt down, still looking at her, and wrapped my arms around Zara. "Your daughter was drowning in a room full of people," I said. "Someone had to swim." Zara's small body trembled against mine. She smelled like expensive soap and sadness. I started humming. A lullaby my mother used to sing. Old Igbo words that felt like home. And Zara, this little girl I'd never met, suddenly grabbed onto me like I was a life raft. She whispered something in broken Igbo. "Mama used to sing this." My heart stopped. I looked up at Yuna Kang, and for 1 second, just one, her mask cracked. Pain flashed across her face, so raw, so devastating that I almost looked away. "Your wife," I said quietly. "Adana Okonkwo. She was Nigerian." The ballroom exploded in whispers, because apparently this was news. Yuna Kang, Seoul's most feared businesswoman, had married a Nigerian woman, had a biracial daughter. Had kept it all secret until this moment. Yuna's jaw tightened, her hand moved, and I braced for violence. But instead she just nodded once. Curt, controlled. "My car. Now. We need to talk." Mrs. Park, the wealthy socialite who'd hired me for this event, rushed forward. "Miss Kang, I apologize profusely. I didn't know she would cause such a scene. I'll have her removed immediately and—" "You'll do nothing," Yuna cut her off. Chioma was doing her job, making sure my event wasn't ruined by a traumatized child, something the rest of you failed to do. She turned those cold eyes back to me. "Bring Zara. 5 minutes. The black Mercedes out front." Then she walked away, and the crowd parted for her like the Red Sea. I stood there, holding this little girl who wouldn't let go, wondering what I'd just gotten myself into. A man appeared at my elbow. Dark-skinned, Korean features, about 40. He spoke in Twi, a Ghanaian language. "I'm Kay. I work for Boss Kang. And sister, you just did something very stupid, very brave, or both." I responded in Twi. "I'm Nigerian. We specialize in both." He almost smiled. Almost. "The car's waiting. Don't run. She'll find you. And trust me, you want this conversation to happen on her terms, not after she's had to hunt you down." I looked down at Zara. She was staring up at me with eyes that were equal parts Korean and Nigerian, equal parts hopeful and terrified. And I thought about Adana. I'd met her exactly 3 times at the Nigerian Community Center in Itaewon. She'd been kind, funny, full of life, and she'd talked about her partner with such fierce love that it had made me jealous. "I have a wife," Adana had told me once. "She's Korean. Powerful, dangerous. But when she looks at our daughter, I see all that power become softness. That's when I know love is the most rebellious act in this world." Adana had died 2 years ago. Car accident, the official report said. But the Nigerian community knew better. We always know better. I carried Zara through the ballroom, past the staring elite, past the security who looked like they wanted to stop me but didn't dare. Outside, rain hammered the Seoul streets. The black Mercedes sat idling at the curb, windows tinted so dark I couldn't see inside. Kay opened the door. "Good luck, sister." I climbed in with Zara still clinging to me. The door shut with the finality of a coffin lid. And there, in the back seat, was Yuna Kang. Up close, she was even more terrifying. Every line of her face was controlled, every breath calculated. She looked at me the way a scientist looks at a specimen. "How much do you know about my wife?" No pleasantries. No introduction. Straight to the blade. "I know Adana Okonkwo was a Nigerian activist," I said. "I know she fought for immigrant rights in Seoul, I know she married you in secret because Korea doesn't recognize same-sex marriage, and her family disowned her for loving a woman. And I know she died in a car accident that wasn't an accident." Yuna's expression didn't change, but her hand, resting on the seat between us, curled into a fist so tight her knuckles went white. "You know a lot for a woman who plans parties. I know enough to understand your daughter just heard her mother's lullaby for the first time in 2 years and broke down crying in public. I know enough to see that you've turned yourself into ice because melting would hurt too much." The car started moving. Rain streaked down the windows like tears. Zara had fallen asleep on my lap, exhausted from crying. In the front seat, Kay drove in silence. Yuna watched her daughter sleep. And for the first time, I saw something human in her face. She hasn't spoken to me in 6 months, Yuna said quietly. She eats, she goes to school, she exists, but she doesn't speak, not to me, not to anyone, until tonight, until you. She spoke to me in Igbo, I said. Her mother's language. When did you stop speaking it around her? Yuna flinched. Actual visible pain. After the funeral, I couldn't. Every word reminded me of... She stopped, composed herself. I need to hire you. I'm not for sale. Everyone has a price, Miss Adebayo. Then you don't understand Nigerians, I said. We don't sell ourselves. We invest ourselves in things that matter, in people who need us. Your money means nothing to me. But your daughter? She matters. Yuna studied me for a long moment. Outside, Seoul blurred past in neon and rain. We were heading toward Gangnam, toward the skyscrapers that touched the clouds. $50,000 a month, Yuna said. Cash. Teach Zara about her Nigerian heritage. Teach her Igbo. Teach her who her mother was. Keep her connected to that part of herself. And what do you get out of this? I get to see my daughter smile again. Even if it's not at me. The vulnerability in those words made my chest ache. This woman, this terrifying ice queen, was a mother breaking apart in slow motion. I'll do it, I said. But not for your money. I'll do it because Adana asked me to, 2 years ago. Yuna's head snapped toward me. What? 3 weeks before she died, she came to me at the community center. She said if anything happened to her, someone needed to make sure Zara knew her Nigerian roots. She said she had a bad feeling, and she made me promise. Yuna's composure shattered. Just for a second. Her eyes went bright with unshed tears. Her jaw trembled, and then she locked it all down again. But I'd seen it. The wound beneath the armor. Did she know? Yuna's voice cracked. Did she know they were coming for her? I think she suspected. And I think she loved you and Zara too much to run. The car stopped. We'd arrived at a building so tall I couldn't see the top through the rain. Kay got out, opened the door. Yuna stepped out first, then reached back for Zara. Her daughter stirred, saw her mother, and for a moment I thought she might pull away. But then Zara's small hand gripped Yuna's finger. Just one finger. And Yuna's entire face transformed. Come inside, Yuna said to me. We'll discuss terms. I already told you my terms. I don't want your money. Then what do you want, Miss Adebayo? I looked at this woman who ruled Seoul's underworld with an iron fist. This woman who'd loved so fiercely, she'd married in secret and had a child in a country that didn't recognize her relationship. This woman who was drowning in grief and didn't know how to ask for a life raft. I want you to let me help your daughter. And maybe if you stop being so terrified of feeling... The car stopped. We'd arrived at a building so tall I couldn't see the top through the rain. Kay got out, opened the door. Yuna stepped out first, then reached back for Zara. Her daughter stirred, saw her mother, and for a moment I thought she might pull away. But then Zara's small hand gripped Yuna's finger. Just one finger. And Yuna's entire face transformed. Come inside, Yuna said to me. We'll discuss terms. I already told you my terms. I don't want your money. Then what do you want, Miss Adebayo? I looked at this woman who ruled Seoul's underworld with an iron fist. This woman who'd loved so fiercely, she'd married in secret and had a child in a country that didn't recognize her relationship. This woman who was drowning in grief and didn't know how to ask for a life raft. I want you to let me help your daughter. And maybe if you stop being so terrified of feeling something, I want to help you too. Yuna stared at me. The rain soaked us both. Security guards shifted nervously nearby. And then, impossibly, Yuna Kang smiled. It was small. Sad. But real. You really are either very brave or very stupid. I'm Nigerian, I said again. We're both. Now are we going inside, or are you planning to conduct business in a typhoon? Kay laughed. Actually laughed. Yuna shot him a look, but there was no real anger in it. She turned and walked toward the building. I followed, carrying Zara, stepping into an elevator that shot us so high into the sky I felt my ears pop. The penthouse doors opened onto another world. All white marble and floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Seoul's glittering sprawl. Modern art on the walls, furniture that looked like it belonged in a museum, and absolutely no warmth, no color, no life. This is where you live? I couldn't help the horror in my voice. This is where we exist, Yuna corrected. She shrugged off her jacket, and I saw shoulder holsters. Actual guns. Living is something else entirely. Kay appeared with a tablet. Boss, the syndicate is pushing back on the Itaewon territories. They want a meeting. Tell them tomorrow. I'm busy. Kay's eyebrows rose. In all the years I'd known of Yuna Kang, I'd never heard of her delaying business. She noticed my surprise. Priorities shift, she said simply. Then to me, Zara's room is down the hall, second door. She needs to sleep. I carried Zara through the pristine hallway. Her room was the only space with any color. Korean dolls lined one shelf. But on the bed, carefully preserved, was a Nigerian Ankara blanket. Photos of Adana covered one wall. Zara in her arms. Adana laughing, Adana pregnant, Adana alive. I laid Zara down, covered her with that Ankara blanket. She stirred, grabbed my hand. Stay? Her voice was so small. I'm not going anywhere, I promised, and I realized I meant it. Whatever I'd walked into tonight, I was in it now. For this child, for her mother's memory, and maybe, just maybe, for the terrifying woman who was trying so hard not to break. I sang that Igbo lullaby until Zara's breathing evened out. When I turned around, Yuna was standing in the doorway, watching. She'd changed into comfortable clothes. Without the armor of her suit, she looked younger, more fragile, more human. She hasn't slept through the night since Adana died, Yuna said. Nightmares, always nightmares. What about you, I asked. Do you sleep? Yuna's smile was bitter. Sleep requires feeling safe. I haven't felt safe in 2 years. She turned and walked toward what I assumed was the living room. I followed. She poured 2 glasses of whiskey without asking if I wanted one, handed me a glass, and stood at the window staring out at Seoul. Tell me about yourself, Chioma Adebayo. Why is a Nigerian woman planning parties for Korea's elite? Because I'm good at creating beautiful illusions, I said. And because 8 years ago I needed to disappear from Lagos. Seoul seemed far enough away. Running from something? Running from myself, mostly. From expectations. From a family that wanted me to marry a man I didn't love and produce grandchildren I didn't want. Yuna glanced at me. You're gay. Is that a problem? Why would it be? I married a woman, had her child. Love isn't a problem. It's everything else that becomes problematic. She was right. I sipped the whiskey. It was expensive, smooth, the kind of drink that wealthy people use to pretend they weren't slowly dying inside. Adana talked about you constantly, I said. Every time I saw her at the community center, my wife this, my wife that. She said you were the most dangerous person in Seoul, and also the kindest. She said you'd burn the world down to keep her and Zara safe. I failed. Yuna's voice was raw. I didn't burn it down fast enough. They got to her first. Who? The Bake Syndicate, rival family. They wanted to show me that no one is untouchable, not even the people I love. So they cut her brake lines, made it look like an accident, and I've spent 2 years destroying them piece by piece. But it doesn't bring her back. It just makes me more of a monster. She drained her whiskey, poured another. Her hands were shaking. Is that why you stopped speaking Igbo to Zara? Because it reminded you of what you lost? I stopped because every word felt like swallowing glass. Because I'd hear Adana's voice in my head, correcting my pronunciation, laughing at my mistakes. Because my daughter looks just like her, and sometimes I can't breathe when I look at her. So you turned yourself to ice instead. Ice doesn't feel pain, Miss Adebayo. Ice doesn't break down in business meetings. Ice doesn't disappoint a 7-year-old by crying every time she asks why Mama isn't coming home. I set down my glass and walked over to her. Yuna Kang was taller than me, broader in the shoulders, radiating danger even in sweatpants. But standing there, backlit by Seoul's lights, she looked lost. Ice also doesn't heal, I said softly, and it doesn't let anyone else heal either. Zara needs her mother, not Boss Kang, not the Ice Queen, her mother. I don't know how to be that anymore. Then let me teach you. The same way I'll teach Zara about being Nigerian. You think identity is just language and food and culture? It's also about being vulnerable enough to love loudly. That's what Adana did. She loved you loudly in a country that wanted her to whisper. And that's what you need to do for Zara. Yuna turned to face me fully. We were close enough that I could see the gold flecks in her dark eyes. Close enough that I could feel the heat radiating from her despite all that ice. Why are you doing this? She asked. You don't know me. You barely knew Adana. Why step into this mess? Because I'm tired of watching people suffer alone, I said. Because I came to Seoul running from myself and found a community of Africans doing the same thing. And Adana was the heart of that community. She made us feel seen. So if I can give that to her daughter, if I can help you stop drowning in grief, then maybe I'm paying forward the kindness she showed me. Yuna reached out. For a second, I thought she might touch my face. But her hand stopped halfway, trembling in the air between us. You should go, she said. It's late. Kay will drive you home. Come back tomorrow at noon. We'll discuss schedule and logistics. Yuna. Miss Kang, she corrected, the ice slamming back into place. In this penthouse, I'm Miss Kang. Good night, Miss Adebayo. She walked away. Disappeared down a hallway. Left me standing there with half a glass of whiskey and the feeling that I'd just glimpsed something rare and wounded and worth fighting for. Kay appeared from wherever he'd been lurking. Ready to go? Does she do that a lot? Push people away? She does it to everyone except Zara. And even with Zara, she's been pushing. You're the first person in 2 years who's pushed back. In the car, driving through Seoul's midnight streets, I stared out at the city I'd made my home. Somewhere in this sprawl of neon and glass, there were people who wanted Yuna Kang dead, who'd killed Adana to hurt her, and I just volunteered to walk into the middle of that war. Kay caught my eyes in the rearview mirror. You sure about this, sister? No, I admitted. But Adana asked me to look after Zara, and I don't break promises to dead women. Just be careful. Boss Kang's world isn't like your world. People die, often, and she won't always be able to protect you. I don't need protection. I need to keep a little girl from forgetting her mother. Everything else is secondary. Kay smiled. Adana would have liked you. She used to say the same thing. Everything else is secondary to love. That's why they killed her. He dropped me at my apartment in Itaewon, the neighborhood where Seoul's foreigners clustered together, where African restaurants sat next to American bars and Japanese izakayas, where I could walk down the street and hear 6 languages in 2 minutes, where I'd built a life from nothing. I climbed the stairs to my small studio, exhausted, but when I opened the door, I found an envelope on the floor. Someone had slid it under while I was gone. Inside was a single photo. Me, holding Zara, outside the hotel, and written across it in English, "Leave or disappear like the last one." My hands shook. I locked the door, double-checked the windows, called the one person I knew could help. "Kay," I said when he answered. "We have a problem." 20 minutes later, he was at my door with 2 other men. They swept my apartment for bugs, cameras, anything. Found nothing. But the message was clear. "The Bake Syndicate knows about you now," Kay said grimly. "This is their warning. They'll escalate." So what do? You run, or you stay and accept that you're in a war now. I thought about Zara's small hand gripping mine, about Yuna's broken expression when she talked about not sleeping, about Adana's laugh at the community center, about promises made to dead women. "I'm staying." Kay nodded like he'd expected that answer. "Then tomorrow I teach you how to not die. Boss Kang will want you at the penthouse anyway, safer than here." "I'm not moving into her place." "You are if you want to see your next birthday, sister. The Bake Syndicate doesn't make empty threats. And Boss Kang, for all her ice, won't let you die on her watch. Not after you helped Zara." He was right. And I hated it. But I packed a bag anyway. Followed Kay and his men back to that towering glass building, back up to the penthouse where Yuna Kang was waiting in the kitchen at 3 in the morning, eating cereal like a normal person. She looked up when we walked in, saw my bag, understood immediately. "They sent you a message." I handed her the photo. She stared at it for a long time, then methodically tore it into tiny pieces. "Guest room is the 3rd door on the left. Tomorrow morning, we start teaching you self-defense. You wanted to be in Zara's life? Congratulations. You're also in mine now. And in my world, Miss Adebayo, everyone needs to know how to fight back. If you're still watching, drop a comment and let me know if you saw this coming. Did you think Shioma would run? And hit that subscribe button because this story is about to get intense. I barely slept that night. The guest room was bigger than my entire apartment, with a bed so soft I felt like I was floating. But every creak, every distant sound made me jolt awake. Somewhere in this building was a woman who ruled an empire of violence, and her daughter, who just wanted her mother back. And me, caught between them, holding a promise to a ghost. When I finally gave up on sleep around 6, I found Yuna already awake in her home gym. She was running on a treadmill, sweat soaking through her shirt, moving like she was trying to outrun demons. She saw me in the doorway and slowed to a stop. Couldn't sleep either? Not used to someone wanting me dead, I admitted. Yuna grabbed a towel, wiped her face. Without makeup, with her hair loose and damp, she looked younger, almost vulnerable. You get used to it. Eventually, the death threats become background noise. That's a terrible way to live. It's the only way I know anymore. She gestured to the gym. Come on. If we're doing this, you need to learn the basics. How to throw a punch, how to break a hold, how to run. For the next 2 hours, Yuna Kang taught me how to survive. Her hands on my shoulders, adjusting my stance. Her voice in my ear, calm and patient, explaining pressure points and vulnerable areas. And there was something intimate about it. Learning violence from someone who'd perfected it. Trusting her to teach me how to not die. You're stronger than you look, she said after I successfully broke her hold for the first time. Good, you'll need that strength. We were both breathing hard, standing close, and for a moment the air felt charged with something that wasn't just adrenaline. Then Zara's voice called from somewhere in the penthouse. Ioma? Yuna's entire demeanor changed. The fighter vanished, replaced by a mother who looked terrified of disappointing her child. She left the gym quickly, and I followed. Zara was standing in the kitchen in princess pajamas, rubbing her eyes. When she saw me, her face lit up. Chioma, you stayed. I knelt down. I promised, didn't I? She launched herself at me, hugging tight. Over her head, I saw Yuna watching with an expression of such longing, it made my chest ache. Her own daughter had run to me, not her. Zara, I said gently, why don't you go hug Yuriama good morning? Zara hesitated, looked at her mother, and slowly, carefully walked over and hugged Yuna's leg. It wasn't much, but Yuna dropped to her knees like she'd been shot, wrapped her arms around her daughter, and buried her face in Zara's hair. I'm sorry, Yuna whispered in Korean. I'm so sorry, baby. I'm trying. I'm trying so hard. Zara patted her mother's head like comforting a crying adult, and I had to turn away because my own eyes were burning. This was what Adana had died for. This love. This complicated, messy, beautiful family. And someone wanted to destroy it. Over breakfast, which I cooked because neither Yuna nor Kay could make anything that wasn't cereal or instant noodles, we talked logistics. Zara would start daily Igbo lessons with me. Cultural education. Stories about her mother. And Yuna would be present for all of it, learning alongside her daughter. I need to relearn what I've forgotten, Yuna admitted. Adana tried to teach me, but I was always too busy, too focused on business. I thought we'd have more time. We always think that, I said quietly, until we don't. My phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. Tick-tock, African whore, 48 hours. I showed it to Yuna. Her face went hard. She made a phone call in rapid Korean, her voice sharp with command. When she hung up, she looked at me. You're not leaving this building without guards, and tomorrow night I'm meeting with the bike syndicate, ending this. What are you going to do? What I should have done 2 years ago. Burn their world down. Kay entered then, looking grim. Boss, we have a problem. Mrs. Park is spreading word through Seoul's elite circles, saying you've brought an African woman into your home, that you're dishonoring Adana's memory. She's trying to get Chioma blacklisted from every event in the city. Yuna's smile was cold and terrifying. Is that so? Kay, arrange a visit to Mrs. Park. This afternoon. Let's remind Seoul's elite what happens when they disrespect my family. She said, my family, while looking at me, and something warm bloomed in my chest despite the circumstances. We spent the morning with Zara. I taught her simple Igbo phrases. Kedu ke mere? How are you? Ahurum einanya. I love you. Zara repeated them carefully, her little face scrunched in concentration. And Yuna sat beside her, learning too, her pronunciation terrible but her effort genuine. You sound like you're choking, Zara giggled when Yuna tried to say nah for father. Yuna laughed. Actually laughed. The sound was rusty, like she'd forgotten how, but it was real. Your mama used to say the same thing. She'd make me practice for hours. Tell me about Mama, Zara said quietly. Tell me a story. Yuna looked at me, panic in her eyes, like she'd forgotten how to remember without drowning. So I jumped in. Your mama was the bravest person I ever met, I started. She came to Seoul not speaking Korean, not knowing anyone, just because she believed people needed help. And she never let anyone make her feel small. Not the people who stared at her on the subway. Not the people who said she didn't belong. She'd just smile and say, "I belong everywhere my feet touch the ground." Zara's eyes were wide. Did she really say that? All the time. And when I felt like giving up, like going back to Nigeria because Seoul was too hard, she'd tell me, "Chioma, you didn't cross an ocean to play small. You crossed it to take up space. Your mama taught me that being African in Seoul wasn't about fitting in. It was about bringing our full selves and letting the world adjust." Yuna's hand found mine under the table. Squeezed once, a silent thank you. That afternoon, Yuna and Kay left to visit Mrs. Park. I stayed with Zara, teaching her to cook Nigerian jollof rice. She stood on a stool, carefully measuring rice while I told her about Lagos, about markets that smelled like spices and life, about beaches where the Atlantic crashed eternal, about a home she'd never seen but carried in her DNA. "Will I ever go to Nigeria?" Zara asked. "If you want to, we'll go. You, me, and your Ielma. We'll visit your mama's hometown. Meet your grandparents." "They didn't like that Mama loved Ielma," Zara said matter-of-factly. "That's why we never visited." My heart broke for this child who understood prejudice before she understood algebra. Some people are scared of love that looks different from their S. But that doesn't make the love wrong. It makes the fear wrong. When Yuna returned 2 hours later, she looked satisfied in a way that probably meant Mrs. Park wouldn't be spreading rumors anymore. I didn't ask details. Some things were better left unknown. That evening, after Zara went to bed, Yuna and I sat on her balcony overlooking Seoul. The city glittered beneath us like fallen stars. She'd poured wine this time, something red and expensive. "Mrs. Park has agreed to publicly apologize," Yuna said. "She'll also be donating a substantial amount to the African Community Center in Adana's name." I was quite persuasive. "Should I be concerned about your methods?" "Probably. But I'm trying to use words before fists these days. Adana always hated when I came home with bloody knuckles." She sipped her wine, and in the soft balcony light she looked almost peaceful. Almost. "Can I ask you something personal?" I ventured. "You're living in my home, teaching my daughter, and someone wants to kill you because of me. I think we're past polite boundaries. Why did you close yourself off from Zara after Adana died?" Yuna was quiet for so long I thought she wouldn't answer. "Then, because every time I looked at her, I saw my failure. I couldn't protect Adana. I couldn't stop them from taking her, and I was terrified that if I loved Zara too much, too openly, they'd take her too. So I became ice. Cold enough that nothing could hurt me. Cold enough that I couldn't hurt her with my inadequacy. But you hurt her anyway, with your absence." "I know. Believe me, I know. I've been a terrible mother, a coward hiding behind ice, pretending it was protection." "You're not a coward," I said firmly. "You're wounded. There's a difference. Cowards run. You stayed. You destroyed yourself trying to keep Zara safe, even if your methods were flawed. That's not cowardice. That's love that doesn't know how to breathe anymore." Yuna's eyes met mine, and the vulnerability there was staggering. How do I fix this? How do I become the mother she needs? By letting her see you're human. By crying when you need to cry. By speaking Igbo even when it hurts. By remembering Adana out loud instead of in silence. By letting Zara know that grief is okay, that missing her mother is okay, and that you miss her too. What if I break? Then you break. And Zara and I will help you put yourself back together. That's what family does. We're not family, Miss Adebayo. We barely know each other. Family isn't about blood or time, Miss Kang. It's about showing up. And I'm here, aren't I? She looked away, but not before I saw tears tracking down her face. Yuna Kang, Seoul's most feared crime boss, crying on her balcony while the city sparkled below us. I reached over and took her hand. She gripped it like a lifeline. "Tomorrow night," she said roughly, "the meeting with the bike syndicate. I want you to stay here with Zara. Whatever happens, don't leave this building. Promise me." "What are you planning?" "I'm planning to make sure they never threaten my family again, by any means necessary." The way she said "my family" while holding my hand sent a shiver through me that had nothing to do with the night air. Yuna, I started, using her name without the honorific. Don't do something that turns you into a monster Zara can't recognize. I'm already a monster, Shioma. I'm just trying to be a monster with a heart. She pulled her hand away, stood, and left me alone on the balcony. And I sat there, drinking expensive wine, wondering how I'd gone from planning parties to sitting in a crime boss's penthouse, holding hands with a woman who was either going to save her soul or lose it completely in the next 24 hours. The next day felt like waiting for a storm. Yuna was gone before I woke up, leaving only a note on the kitchen counter. Stay inside. Kay is outside your door. I'll be back by midnight. Please keep Zara safe. Please. Yuna Kang didn't say please. She gave orders. But this wasn't an order. It was a plea. I spent the day with Zara, trying to keep things normal while dread coiled in my stomach. We made Nigerian chin-chin, fried dough balls dusted with sugar. Zara got flour everywhere, laughing as she shaped the dough into lumpy balls. And for a few hours, we pretended we were just a woman and a child baking together, not two people waiting to see if someone they cared about would come home alive. Around 4 in the afternoon, my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Miss Adebayo. The voice was male, Korean accented English, smooth as oil. My name is Baekmin Jun. I believe you know why I'm calling. My blood turned to ice. The Baek Syndicate. Very good. You're smarter than the last one. Adana took weeks to understand the danger she was in. You seem to have grasped it immediately. What do you want? I want you to leave Seoul, tonight. Go back to Nigeria. Forget about Yuna Kang and her half-breed daughter. This is your only warning. Rage, hot and bright, flooded through me. Her daughter's name is Zara. And she's not half-breed. She's half Korean, half Nigerian, and fully human, which is more than I can say for you. Baekminjun laughed. Adana had that same fire, right up until her car went off the bridge. Such a tragedy. So much fire extinguished so quickly. You killed her. I removed an obstacle, just as I'll remove you if you don't disappear. Yuna thinks she's coming to negotiate tonight, but what she's really coming to is a funeral, hers. And if you're still in Seoul when the sun rises, yours too. The line went dead. I stood there, shaking, the phone pressed to my ear long after he'd hung up. Kay burst through the door, gun drawn. What happened? Talk to me. I told him everything. His face went from concerned to furious to terrified in the span of seconds. We need to get Boss out of there. Now, it's a trap. She knows it's a trap, I said. She's going anyway, isn't she? Kay didn't answer, which was answer enough. I need to go, I said. I need to warn her. Absolutely not. Boss would kill me herself if I let you walk into a syndicate war. Then she can kill us both because I'm not letting her die for me. We stared at each other. Then Kay's phone rang. He answered in Korean, his face going pale. When he hung up, his hand was shaking. They have her. The bike syndicate ambushed Boss's car 20 minutes ago. She's alive but captured. They're holding her at their warehouse in Pyeongtaek. Then we go get her. It's not that simple. They have 50 men there. We have maybe 20 we can mobilize in time. Boss walked into this alone because she thought she could negotiate. She was wrong. So we're just going to leave her there to die. Kay looked at Zara, who was playing in the other room, oblivious to the nightmare unfolding. I have to protect the girl. That's my first priority. Boss made me swear. And who protects Boss? She doesn't want protection. She wants revenge, even if it kills her. I thought about Yuna's face last night on the balcony. The vulnerability, the tears, the way she'd held my hand like I was the only solid thing in her world. I thought about Adana's voice at the community center. Love is the most rebellious act. I thought about Zara, who'd already lost one mother and was about to lose another. Call everyone you can, I said. Every person who owes Yuna a favor, every ally she has. Tell them it's time to pay their debts. And what are you going to do? Something stupid and brave. Both. I went to Zara, knelt down beside her. Baby, I need you to be very strong right now. Your Iyama is in trouble, and I have to go help her. Zara's eyes went wide. Is Iyama going to die like Mama? Not if I can help it, but I need you to stay here with Kay. Don't open the door for anyone. Don't leave. Can you do that? She nodded, tears already streaming down her face. Bring Iyama home. I promise. It was a promise I had no idea if I could keep, but I made it anyway, because sometimes love requires you to make impossible promises. Kay drove like a demon possessed through Seoul's evening traffic, heading south toward Pyeongtaek. In the back seat, I checked the gun he'd given me. I'd never held a real gun before. The weight of it felt obscene. "You sure about this?" Kay asked for the 5th time. "No, drive faster." He did. We picked up 3 more cars along the way, men I didn't know, but who apparently owed Yuna enough to drive into certain death. By the time we reached the warehouse district, we had 15 people, not 50. But enough. Kay killed the engine 3 blocks away. Last chance to turn back. "How do we get in?" He smiled grimly. "We don't get in. We bring the building down around them." The plan was insane, which meant it might actually work. Kay's people would create diversions at 3 entry points. I would go in through the roof access while they were distracted. Find Yuna. Get out. Simple. Except everything about it was impossible. I crept across rooftops in the dark, my heart hammering so hard I thought they'd hear it from inside. The warehouse roof was rusted metal. Treacherous. I found the skylight Kay had mentioned. Looked down into hell. Yuna was tied to a chair in the center of the warehouse floor. Blood ran down her face from a cut above her eye. Her shirt was torn, but she was alive, and more than that, she was defiant. Even beaten and bound, Yuna Kang looked like a queen. Baek Min-jun circled her, talking. I couldn't hear the words, but I could see his gestures. Mocking. Cruel. Enjoying this. Then he pulled out a phone and played a video. Even from the roof, I could hear it. Zara, singing that Igbo lullaby I'd taught her. Yuna's entire body went rigid. "Your daughter has a lovely voice," Baek said in English, loud enough for me to hear. "It would be a shame if something happened to her. If she had an accident, just like her other mother." That's when the explosion started. Kay's team had rigged 3 entry points with enough flashbangs to sound like the apocalypse. The warehouse erupted in chaos. Men scattered. Gunfire echoed. And I dropped through the skylight on a rope that Kay had somehow procured, landing badly, twisting my ankle, but moving anyway. I ran toward Yuna, gun drawn, no idea what I was doing except that she was there and I was here, and nothing else mattered. A man stepped in my path. I pulled the trigger. The recoil nearly broke my wrist, but he went down. I kept moving. Yuna saw me. Her eyes went wide with horror. "Chioma, no! Get out!" I reached her, started cutting her restraints with a knife Kay had given me. "Not without you." "You stupid, brave, impossible woman," Yuna hissed. But her voice cracked with something that might have been relief or terror or love. I got her free. She grabbed a gun from a fallen guard, and then we were moving. Back to back, making our way toward the exit. Yuna moved like violence was a second language, precise and devastating. I moved like someone who'd learned self-defense 2 days ago and was running on pure adrenaline and fear. We almost made it to the door when Baek Min-jun appeared, gun aimed at Yuna's head. Did you really think it would be this easy? Time stopped. I saw Yuna's finger on the trigger, saw Baek's finger tighten in, saw the space between life and death narrowing to nothing. I stepped in front of Yuna. The gunshot was deafening. I felt impact, like being punched in the chest by God. Then I was falling, and Yuna was screaming, and the world turned sideways. I heard more gunshots. Yuna's voice, raw with rage, shouting in Korean. Sounds of fighting. Then strong arms lifting me, Yuna's face above mine, her tears falling on my cheeks. "Don't you dare," she was saying. "Don't you dare die on me, Chioma. I can't lose you too. I can't. Please." "Zara," I managed to whisper. "Keep her safe." "You're going to keep her safe? You're going to live. You hear me?" "That's an order." Kay appeared, more men behind him. "Boss, we need to move. Now." Yuna lifted me like I weighed nothing, carried me through smoke and chaos to a waiting car. The last thing I remember before darkness took me was her hand gripping mine and her voice, broken and desperate, saying, "Stay with me. Please, Chioma. Stay." I woke up in a hospital room 3 days later. The first thing I saw was Yuna, asleep in a chair beside my bed, still wearing the same torn, blood-stained clothes from the warehouse. She looked like she hadn't moved in 72 hours. I tried to speak. My throat was sandpaper. The sound woke her instantly. She was on her feet, hands hovering over me like she was afraid I'd shatter if she touched me. "You're awake. Oh God, you're awake." Tears streamed down her face. "The doctors said you might not wake up. You've been unconscious for 3 days. The bullet hit your chest, missed your heart by centimeters. You almost died. You stupid, brave, impossible woman, you almost died. Zara? I managed to croak. Safe. Kay has her at a secure location. She's been asking about you constantly. I haven't let her visit because I didn't want her to see you like this, but she made you a card. It's all right here. Yuna held up a piece of paper covered in crayon drawings. A stick figure labeled Chioma with a cape and a heart. The words, "I love you," in shaky English. I started crying. Yuna sat on the edge of my bed and very carefully, very gently, pulled me into her arms. "Why did you do it?" she whispered into my hair. "Why did you step in front of me?" "Because Zara already lost one mother. She couldn't lose another." "So you decided to die instead?" "I decided to make sure she didn't grow up alone." Yuna pulled back, looked at me with those dark eyes that weren't ice anymore, just raw and open and terrified. "And what about me? Did you think about what losing you would do to me? You barely know me." "I know enough. I know you're the first person in 2 years who looked at me and saw a mother, not a monster. I know you walked into my life and brought light into a place that had been dark for so long I'd forgotten what warmth felt like. I know that when I thought you were dead, something inside me broke that wasn't already broken. And I know that I can't lose you. I won't survive it." Yuna. She kissed me, soft and desperate and tasting of tears and coffee and something that felt like coming home after a long, cold journey. When she pulled back, she was smiling through her tears. "When you're healed," she said, "when you're strong again, I'm going to court you properly, Nigerian style. I'm going to learn all the traditions. Meet your family, if you'll let me. I'm going to do this right, because you deserve everything, Chioma Adebayo, and I'm going to spend every day trying to be worthy of you." "What about the bike syndicate?" "Ended. Baek Min-jun is dead. I killed him myself after he shot you. His organization is scattered. The ones who survived have agreed to leave Seoul entirely. It's over. The war is over." "So what now? Now we heal, all of us. We stop running. We stop hiding. We build something better." Over the next 2 months, that's exactly what we did. I recovered slowly, physical therapy to regain strength, therapy of a different kind to process the trauma of almost dying. Yuna came to every appointment, held my hand through every nightmare, learned to be vulnerable in ways that terrified her. Zara bloomed. With her mother present and engaged, with me teaching her about her Nigerian heritage, with Kay and the extended community of people who'd become our family, she transformed from a withdrawn, silent child to a bright, laughing girl who spoke 3 languages and could argue in all of them. Yuna formally stepped back from her criminal enterprises. She didn't abandon her people, but she shifted focus. Used her wealth and influence to support legitimate businesses. Invested in the African Community Center. Became a voice for immigrant rights, carrying on Adana's work in ways that honored her memory without drowning in grief. And we fell in love. Slowly, carefully, with all the complications that come from blending cultures and healing trauma and raising a child together. It wasn't easy. Yuna struggled with letting people in. I struggled with trust after someone had tried to kill me. We fought. We cried. We laughed. We built something messy and beautiful and real. 6 months after the warehouse, Yuna took me and Zara to Nigeria. We visited Adana's hometown, met her family who'd refused to acknowledge her when she was alive but couldn't deny their granddaughter. It was painful and healing and necessary. Zara stood at her mother's childhood home and sang that Igbo lullaby, and Adana's mother broke down crying, pulled Zara into her arms and apologized for all the years of silence. "She looks just like Adana," the grandmother said in Igbo. "Same fire, same heart." "She has Yuna's stubbornness, though," I said, smiling at my partner who was trying very hard not to cry. We scattered some of Adana's ashes in the Atlantic, in the waters she'd grown up swimming in. Zara said a prayer in Igbo, Yuna said one in Korean, and I said one in Yoruba. 3 languages, 3 cultures, 1 family, honoring the woman who'd made it all possible. "Mama would be happy," Zara said, holding both our hands as waves crashed around our feet. "She always wanted us to be together." Yuna looked at me over Zara's head. "Did she? Did Adana say that?" I nodded. "The last time I saw her, she said, 'If something happens to me, take care of them. Take care of my wife. She's going to forget how to live, and someone needs to remind her. I thought she was being dramatic. I didn't know. She knew, Yuna said softly. She always knew. And she sent me you, one last gift. We flew back to Seoul with lighter hearts and fuller souls, and we started building something new. The Adana Cultural Center opened 1 year after the warehouse. It was a massive space in Itaewon, funded by Yuna, designed by me, filled with the art and music and food of every African nation represented in Seoul. Nigerian jollof sat beside Ghanaian banku. South African music played over speakers. Ethiopian coffee filled the air with rich scent. At the opening ceremony, Yuna gave a speech in halting Igbo that made the entire Nigerian community cheer. Zara performed a traditional Korean fan dance while wearing a Nigerian Ankara dress, fusing her heritage in fabric and movement. And I stood on that stage, looking out at hundreds of faces, African, Korean, and everything in between, and felt Adana's presence key a warm hand on my shoulder. "We made it," I whispered to her ghost. "Your family survived." That night, after the celebration, after Zara was asleep and the city glittered outside our windows, Yuna and I sat on that same balcony where we'd first held hands. "I have something to ask you," Yuna said, and her voice was shaking. She pulled out a small box. Inside were 2 rings, simple gold bands engraved with words in 3 languages, Korean, Igbo, Yoruba, all saying the same thing. Love is rebellion. "Chioma Adebayo," Yuna said, and now she was crying openly, unashamed. "You walked into my life when I was ice and you melted me. You took a bullet for me. You loved my daughter when I'd forgotten how. You gave me back my humanity. Will you marry me? Will you let me spend the rest of my life trying to deserve you?" I took the ring, slipped it on my finger, pulled her close. "You already deserve me, Yuna Kang. You deserved love the moment you chose to stop running from it." We were married 3 months later in a ceremony that blended every tradition we could think of. Korean Pibaek ceremony, where we bowed to elders. Nigerian traditional wedding, where I wore intricate gele and Yuna wore Korean hanbok modified with Ankara fabric. Our vows were in 3 languages. Kay officiated, crying harder than anyone. Zara was flower girl and ring bearer and the happiest 7-year-old in Seoul. Mrs. Park came to the wedding and donated another substantial sum to the cultural center as a wedding gift. "I was wrong about you," she told me in careful English. "You didn't ruin Miss Kang. You saved her." "I didn't save anyone," I said. "We saved each other." That's how love works. If you've made it this far, you're part of this family now. Drop a comment telling me which moment hit you hardest. Was it the warehouse, the Nigerian beach, the proposal? And if you haven't already, smash that like button and subscribe, because stories like this, stories about love that refuses to die, deserve to be shared. 2 years after our wedding, we expanded our family. Through IVF, using my eggs and Yuna's biological material, I carried our son. We named him Adana, gender-neutral in Igbo, meaning father's daughter, but also father's gift. It felt right, honoring the woman who'd made our family possible while looking forward to the future. Zara was the best big sister imaginable. She sang to my pregnant belly in 3 languages. She insisted on decorating the nursery with both Korean and Nigerian colors. And when Adana was born, tiny and perfect and screaming with remarkable lung power, Zara held her sibling and said in perfect Igbo, "I'll protect you, the way Chioma protected Ioma, the way we protect each other. That's what family means." Yuna and I stood there watching our children, and the weight of everything we'd survived felt worth it. Every bullet, every threat, every moment of grief and fear and uncertainty. Worth it for this, for family. The cultural center thrived. We added educational programs, language classes, business incubators for African immigrants starting companies in Seoul. We became a model for other cities. Yuna's legitimate business empire grew, creating jobs and opportunities. She used her influence to push for legal recognition of same-sex marriage in Korea, becoming an unlikely activist. Adana would laugh at this, Yuna said one night, reading news articles about her advocacy. The crime boss turned civil rights leader. "She'd be proud," I corrected, "and she'd say, 'I told you that you were always meant for more than violence.' Do you think she knew how things would turn out? I think she had hope, and hope is its own kind of rebellion." Years passed. Zara grew into a stunning young woman, fluent in Korean, Igbo, and English, studying international relations with plans to work for immigrant rights. Adana grew into a curious, brilliant child who asked a million questions and painted the world in colors we didn't know existed. On the 10th anniversary of Adana Okonkwo's death, we held a memorial at the Cultural Center. The entire community came. Stories were shared, songs were sung, tears were shed. And at the end, Zara stood up and gave a speech that left no dry eye in the room. "My mother died before I could really know her," Zara said. "But I know her through the love she left behind. I know her through the center that bears her name, through the wife who still loves her, through the woman who kept a promise to her ghost, through the siblings I have because that love didn't die. My mother taught me that love is rebellion, that choosing to love loudly in a world that wants you to be quiet is the bravest thing you can do, and I'm going to spend my life rebelling just like she did." After the memorial, Yuna and I walked through Itaewon, holding hands, watching our city. Seoul had changed so much in the years since I'd arrived. More diverse, more open. Still imperfect, still struggling with prejudice and tradition, but better. Slowly better. "Do you ever regret it?" Yuna asked. "Everything you gave up? You could have been safe, could have left when they threatened you, built a different life." I stopped walking, turned to face her. "Yuna Kang, every scar I carry is a story of choosing love. Every nightmare I still have is proof I chose life over safety. And I'd do it again, 1,000 times. Because this right here, this life we built from grief and fear and impossible hope, this is everything." She kissed me there on the street, under Seoul's neon lights, not caring who saw. Because that's what we'd learned. That love isn't something to hide. It's something to proclaim, to celebrate, to defend with everything you have. We walked home to our apartment, bigger now, filled with noise and life and the beautiful chaos of family. Adana was doing homework at the kitchen table. Zara was video calling friends, laughing about something. Kay was in the living room, playing uncle, having retired from security to work full-time at the Cultural Center. This was our rebellion, not with guns or violence or ice-cold vengeance, with love, loud, messy, complicated, beautiful love that refused to be silent. That night, lying in bed with Yuna beside me, I thought about that first night at the Grand Hanseong Hotel. The gunshot, the crying child, the ice queen who'd turned out to be flesh and blood and breaking heart. I thought about Adana's promise extracted in a community center 3 weeks before her death. I thought about every choice that had led here. "Thank you," Yuna whispered in the dark. "For what?" "For seeing me when I was invisible to myself. For loving Zara when I'd forgotten how. For taking a bullet. For staying. For choosing us every single day, even when it was hard. For teaching me that ice melts, and that's not weakness. It's life." I turned to face her. "Thank you for letting me in. For trusting me with your daughter. For building this life with me. For proving that people can change, that monsters can become human, that love is worth the fight." "Always worth the fight," Yuna agreed. She fell asleep first, her breathing evening out, her hands still holding mine. And I lay there listening to my family exist around me. Adana's gentle snoring from the next room. Zara's soft music playing. Kay's quiet movements in the guest room. The city humming outside. This was everything Adana had wanted. Everything she'd died protecting. A family that loved loudly. A daughter who knew both her cultures. A wife who'd remembered how to live. And a woman from Lagos who'd kept an impossible promise to a ghost. I closed my eyes and felt Adana's presence one last time. Not sad, not angry, just at peace. Because love hadn't died when she did. It had multiplied, transformed, become something bigger than any of us. "We made it," I whispered again to her memory. "Your family survived, your love survived, and it's beautiful. I hope wherever you are, you can see that it's beautiful." The city glittered outside. Seoul, Hanseong, home, where a Nigerian woman and a Korean former crime boss and 2 children and an extended family of rebels and dreamers had built something that couldn't be destroyed by bullets or prejudice or fear. Because love, real love, the kind that costs everything and gives more back, that love is eternal, and it's rebellion, and it's worth every scar. Before we wrap up this journey, I need you to do something for me. If this story moved you, if Chioma and Yuna's love story made you believe in second chances, hit that subscribe button right now. Share this video with someone who needs to hear that love is worth fighting for. Drop a comment telling me what this story meant to you. Because stories like this, they need to be shared. They need to be celebrated. They need to remind the world that love, in all its forms, is the most powerful force we have. 10 years after that gunshot in the ballroom, Yuna and I stood in that same Grand Hanseong hotel, hosting our own event, a fundraiser for African Korean families. The ballroom was packed with people who looked like us, interracial couples, biracial children, immigrants who'd built lives in foreign soil, people who'd chosen love over fear. Zara gave a speech about her mothers, plural, about growing up between cultures and finding strength in the space between, about her biological mother, who died fighting for love, and her other mother, who'd almost died protecting it, and her mama, who'd survived a bullet for it. Family isn't one thing, Zara said to the crowd. It's not one culture or one language or one way of loving. It's showing up. It's fighting for each other. It's choosing love even when the world says you're not supposed to. My family taught me that. And I'm going to teach my children the same thing. After the event, after everyone had gone home, Yuna and I stood in the empty ballroom. The same place where our story had started with a crying child and a woman brave enough to care. Do you remember what you said to me that night? Yuna asked. I said a lot of things that night. Most of them probably got me almost killed. She laughed. That sound still made my heart skip. You said, your daughter was drowning in a room full of people, and someone had to swim. You dove into my life, Chioma, into my grief, into my ice, and you saved all of us. We saved each other, I corrected. That's the point. That's always been the point. We walked out of that ballroom hand in hand, just like we'd walked through every challenge and joy and impossibility, together, because that's what love does. It makes you braver, makes you better, makes you believe that tomorrow might be worth surviving for. And as we stepped out into Seoul's night, into our city, our home, our life, I knew one thing with absolute certainty. Love is rebellion. Love is survival. Love is choosing to swim when the world is drowning. And I'd choose it, choose us, choose this messy, beautiful, impossible family every single time. The end isn't really an end, it's a beginning. Every day, we begin again. We choose love again. We rebel again. And that is everything. Thank you for being part of this journey. Thank you for witnessing this love story. Now go out there and write your own. Love loudly. Love bravely. Love like it's the most rebellious thing you can do. Because it is. Hit that like button if you made it to the end. Subscribe for more stories that celebrate love in all its forms, and comment below telling me about the love you're fighting for. Because every story matters. Every love deserves to be told. And together, we're building a world where no one has to hide who they love or who they are. This is Chioma and Yuna's story, but it's also yours. It's ours. It's everyone's who's ever chosen love over fear. And that's the most beautiful rebellion of all.